nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Yes, it is. It's Vikings Vent Line. Happy Sunday to you all. Of course, Surly Brewing Company powering Purple Daily. Try the Furious. It's Judd Zolgad's favorite. There's also a variety pack. There's plenty at the tap room. And you can come hang out with us at the Surly Tap Room on draft night, April 28th. It's going to be an absolute blast. We'll have an open mic. We'll have a live Vent Line session with you, the Vikings fans. Pack the place. It's free. They're totally free to attend. There's no tickets. Just buy some beer, and they'll be brewing the Before I Die Pale Ale, a special beer just for Surly Draft Night and just for you, the Minnesota Vikings fans who want to see the Vikings win a dang Super Bowl before we all die. So check it out. Surly Brewing, they're a proud sponsor of Score North. Also, a shout out to TCL. Enjoy more of what you love with TCL Televisions, one of the best TVs in the business. We thank them for powering Vikings Vent Line and Purple Daily. Vent Line about to roll on here with my guys Ryan and Josh, who are about to join the show. But if you'd like to get in on a future episode of the Vikings Vent Line, shoot me an email. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now for the YouTube audience. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. vikingsventline@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I'll gladly put you in queue. I'll get you on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line. This show lives during the regular season where we bring fans on right after the game with Mackie and Judd, but the off-season edition never sleeps as well. Vikings fans coming on the show year-round. Every Sunday, right here on Purple Daily. So thank you for all the Vikings fans who have joined us. Let's bring in our guests now. Let's go to Ryan. We got Josh. Ryan, you said you're in Minnesota now, right? You're now based here?
Yes, I'm in Brooklyn Park.
Okay, Brooklyn Park. Josh, are you in Minnesota? Where are you from?
I'm not. Yeah, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. So not in the Minnesota area.
Okay. Quick question for you, Josh. How did you become a Vikings fan?
Yeah, so my mom's side of the family is all from Minnesota, and so I traveled up there a bunch, and I started watching the Vikings in the 90s, and been a fan ever since.
Nice, dude. And Ryan, you've been a tortured Minnesota sports fan for the majority of your life as well?
Yes, definitely. Since I believe the first memory was 98, so 10 years old, Gary doing his thing.
Tough one there. I mean, my first earliest memory is the run. It was before 41 Donut, but it was that season. But 41 Donut being the nail in the coffin for that season. That was my first memory. I was about 9 years old then, and yes, that's how I became a Vikings fan. I love how we all have a universal memory in game that we remember. Like, oh yeah, remember 98, 2001, 09, 2017. There's a whole generation of Vikings fans that had that luxury, if you will. Guys, I want to start with your expectations for the Vikings in 2022. I'm curious, and Ryan, I'll start with you. What are your expectations now that the offseason's mostly been set from a free agency standpoint? They still got the draft, obviously, so things can still change. But what are your expectations for the Vikings this season?
This season, considering all of the offseason stuff that's happened, I would expect to see the defense take a big step forward. I mean, considering what they were last year, it wouldn't be that hard to do. But I see them in the middle of the pack. If they're in the middle of the pack and they can have the offense that you expect O'Connell to bring to the team, it's looking like I'm hoping 10 wins, maybe 11. Beating the Packers both times. That's important. But I think that takes the division at that point. I think the Packers game's really kind of I don't see the Lions or the Bears beating either the Packers or the Vikings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the Lions and Bears, I think, are going to be mostly kind of not dumpster fires, but definitely towards the bottom of the league, right? I think Justin Fields is intriguing, and I think Chicago's gearing up for a year from now to really make a run and build out the rest of the roster. And I love me some Dan Campbell just from a follower standpoint, because I think he's hilarious, but the Lions aren't going to be any too good, I think, this year either. But yeah, the Vikings, I think 10, 11 wins, right? That should be where they're at. And if they get to 11 or more, yes, I would foresee that also winning the division. Josh, what about you, man? What are your expectations for the Vikings this season?
I was pretty excited with the off-season changes at GM and coach, and I think KOC is definitely going to be a guy that'll make the offense well better than it's been in the last handful of years, and I'm hopeful that he can get something out of Kirk Cousins that we haven't seen yet, and make this offense pretty dynamic. I think the defense will definitely be better than they were. it can't be any worse for the most part. So if we can stay, relatively injury free on the defense, and then keep that offense as good as they were doing last year, offensive line is going to be, interesting. But I think just from that, coaching staff change from the offensive side of the ball from last year to this year, I think we'll definitely see significant improvement. And I'm hopeful that, if the crazy changes I wanted to see this year, didn't happen, hopefully if it doesn't work out, great, that we can see it going forward. But I think the offense will definitely be something that's working out well this year, and I'm hoping that with that, definitely beating the Packers twice. I want to see, winning the North is really what I want to see, and then going forward, if we can make it into the playoffs and get a couple wins, that would be Super Bowl before we die is perfect, but I'm not 100% sure that this team will get it this year. Down the road for sure, but this year, good couple wins, and if none of that works out, then maybe we'll get a high draft pick in 2023.
Yeah, I'm curious on that too, man. I think they should be a playoff team, right? Like they should be hopefully sneaking at the very least that last wild card spot, but winning the North and beating the Packers twice is always a good spot to be in. Yeah, are they true contenders right now? Like, are they the best team in the NFC? Probably not. I think things would have to bend their way for that all to happen, and it seems like with Kirk Cousins locked in for these next 2 years, they still believe they can get more out of this offense. And, to use your initial term of a dynamic offense, I think that's accurate. They have to be a dynamic offense. And if the defense can be healthy and just passable, right? And then can they be situationally good? Like, could they be good in third downs? Could they be good in the red zone? Could they be good at one thing, like getting after the quarterback? Can they be good at just one thing? Because obviously, they've torn it down now, and it's been bottom 5 the last 2 years, but personnel changes, scheme has changed, and hopefully the Vikings defense, can just like legitimately be average, because the Vikings offense has to hum. But if the defense can be average, that's all we need, right? Like if that Vikings offense goes over the top, that'll be gravy, and they can finally hit that glass ceiling of being a top 5 offense. There's too many weapons on that offense for it not to be top 5.
Absolutely.
I am curious. We talked about this earlier this week because the Vikings had leads in like every single game. I think 15 out of 17 games they had leads in this season. And they only obviously won. They were 7-8 games. So I'm curious on your guys' thoughts. Should the Vikings have been a playoff team last year? Like, was it just bad luck? Was it just poor execution? Ryan, I'll turn it to you. Should they have been in the playoffs last year?
My heart says yes, but my head says the scores were the scores for a reason. Like, I figure there's probably 1 or 2 games, the Joseph kick and the Dalvin fumble. Both of those, at the time especially, hurt. Just because you knew, especially with the Dalvin fumble, the more and more you go and watch that, it's harder and harder to tell me that was a fumble. I'm sorry. Right. I don't see it that way. And the Joseph field goal was, I don't know. It's Minnesota sports. I see it and it happens, and I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. And we're trying to change that, but I figure yes. My heart says yes, but my head says that 1 or 2 games, even if we get into, I'm okay with us missing because of O'Connell. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, if they would have made the playoffs, they potentially could have kept Mike Zimmer, right? So I think it's hilarious too as Vikings fans, because when Greg Joseph lined up in that Cardinals game, even though it's a pooch shot, right? It's like 38, 39 yards. I was like, he's going to miss this kick. And we're now trained to have that thought of he's going to miss this kick. I know it. And it sails wide right, not even close. And you're just like, you've got to be kidding me. But at the same time, you knew it was coming. And that's like the painful part about being a Vikings fan. I agree that it's probably the missed kick in Arizona, and then also the butt fumble, because that butt was down. Like Dalvin Cook, I agree. I think he was down too. Those are the two that really stand out. Like you lost to the Browns because Baker kept you in, and that stinks. The dagger game against Cooper Rush at home is obviously that's the most gut punching loss, to lose to a practice squad quarterback essentially. But those 2 wins probably shift you, into the playoffs as that last team in potentially. But at the end of the day, the scores are the scores. Josh, what do you think, man? Should the Vikings have been a playoff team in 2021?
Absolutely not. I don't think that they had, a complete game plan on offense, and it definitely showed that there was some lacking, coaching experience, and then trying to just piece the entire game together from start to finish wasn't ever there. Even though we had the talent, we just didn't have, that direction that we really needed to see from that offense. And then from the defensive side, we just had too many injuries. And then when that wasn't the case, it was, potentially some missteps with coaching on that side too. So, I would love to see them in the playoffs. I really thought there for a little bit they were going to get close. Every game was super close. Some bad luck here and there in some of those games that were just, turns out to be a a bad deal, a heartbreaker loss, those sort of things. But really, in the end, I think we probably shouldn't have even been as close as we were to making it into the playoffs last year. And I'm definitely hopeful this year that we'll have a better shot. But last year, I say no.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, you got to win the football games, and they weren't able to do that. And them also just coughing up all those leads proves to me that you're not a playoff caliber team, right? Like, even though they had leads in 15 of those games, you blew all those leads. And then the way you lost games was painful. And yeah, you should have beat the Cowboys at home against Cooper Rush, but you didn't. You should have been able to dagger the Browns after Baker Mayfield was throwing the game away, but you didn't. And at the end of the day, that's what you got to do. You got to win these football games. And the Eagles sneaking in as that 7th seed, they get absolutely drubbed in Tampa Bay in that wild card weekend game.
Yeah.
But they were able to win 10 wins. They were able to get the 10 wins and get there. And yeah, I agree. I don't think the Vikings were a playoff team last year. They certainly didn't look like one. I think they should hopefully get in this year. You know, coaching should turn things around and make them a little bit of a better team. And now that they're an offensive-minded team with an offensive-minded coach, and hopefully, like we said earlier, getting to be a top 5 offense, they should definitely, obviously, be, I think, one of the 7 better teams in the NFC. We'll see where they fall. We talked about this on 4-Question Friday, and I'm seeing so many Vikings fans in our YouTube comment section ask Judd and Mackie and I about this, is should the Vikings draft a wide receiver? And Ryan, I see you already licking your chops.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just throw it to you, man. Should the Vikings possibly take a wide receiver at pick 12?
At pick 12, if there's a certain 2 wide receivers there. Honestly, if Drake London's there, yeah. But I don't expect – there's just some wide receivers out there that would be worth the pickings at 12. Now, would you be able to maybe move back with somebody that needs something more than we need a wide receiver and still get that guy at like 15 to 20? That would be something I would more explore. But if we're just sticking and picking at 12, yeah, there's a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's awesome that if they did that, it'd be a shock, right? I mean, it's not necessarily a position in need. Their wide receiver room's very set. They got Jefferson and they have Thielen, and KJ Osborne emerged last year and had a nice season as a wide receiver 3. But at the same time, when we go back to 98, like we were talking about off mic, they didn't need Randy Moss. They had Chris Carter. They had Jake Reed, and they draft Randy bleeping Moss, and it changed the entire team and league, for God's sake. So I'm all for them finding more offense and finding more dynamic players. I know the cornerback areas are glaring. They could use a defensive end. They can always use an offensive lineman. But if they can get Drake London at pick 12, I think you got to pull the trigger. Josh, what do you think, man? Should the Vikes take a wide receiver at pick 12, or do you think there's other holes that they need to address at that pick?
I don't want to see him take a wide receiver at 12. If there's Drake London there, I think you're crazy not to. But I just don't see that being. I think somebody's either going to offer to trade up to grab him at 12 and try and trade, with the Vikings to get maybe a different pick or package a pick or something like that. So I would say no. I don't think we would go after a wide receiver. I think there's definitely a couple corners that if he goes higher, then we'll definitely have a couple corners. Sauce Gardner is probably going to be there if if somebody's grabbing a wide receiver above us. So I would say, initially no, but if they can figure out a way to trade that pick and, have somebody come up to grab a wide receiver that definitely needs one, then, it's better for us. We get maybe a lower pick in the first round and then grab something else, either whether it's another pick this year or a pick next year. I would say that's the best way to go. And then, maybe focus on a corner or some of the, other needs that maybe best player available if we don't have a wide receiver on the board that, is kind of that higher echelon wide receiver at 12. Yeah. I would love to see him trade back.
Yeah, I think cornerback seems like the most likely pick at number 12. And then if one of these QB needy teams like Pittsburgh wants to jump in because Malik Willis is potentially on the board, you could obviously trade back. And I think if they're good at trade back from 12 and like with someone like Pittsburgh, I need a future first in return. Like I know you could potentially get like maybe a couple seconds or a couple day 2 picks. I would rather just have.
Get that. But if we get that though, I would do it in a second. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. For sure.
I think you have to. I think if they offer next year's first round pick, you got to do it. And if you move back, and I know some Vikings fans are like, no, don't move back. I'm so sick of that was Trader Rick's motto. But like, I think Trader Rick's thing is what upset me more was not the trading back in the first round. It was like accumulating a bajillion 7th round picks and day 3 picks. I want future day 1 picks. So if Kwesi ends up doing that, I'm all for that. I think if you can get future first round picks, take as many darts as you can in that first round, man. I think that'd be great bullets to have. Guys, I am curious. Yeah, go for it, Josh.
That was always the biggest frustration with Rick was, I think, they talked about it on Purple Access last week there where, he wanted to just trade back and get all these crazy picks that, saying you had 13 picks is great. But when they're, more than half of them or 2/3 of them are, in the 4th, 5th, 7th round, something like that, it doesn't really help you. And we've seen that where they haven't helped us.
No, totally. Yeah. I mean, all those day 3 picks they accumulate, they don't end up hitting it at all. And then, taking weird projects, like taking that D2 tight end with the 5th round pick last year, like he doesn't make your roster. Like, what was the point? Like, you can still find someone in the 5th round, and instead you take this weird chance on a D2 tight end who doesn't even make the 53-man roster. It can be frustrating. So yes, accumulating all those day 3 picks can just be honestly annoying at the end of the day. It's nothing really to brag about, I think, if you're a Vikings fan.
It almost seemed like Rick was doing that to spite Mike by the end of it.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. It seemed like, because the 4th through 7th round picks, what are you going to, like, you got 7 of them, but what if none of them, if Mike's not going to use them and you're drafting them? It was a vicious cycle.
Totally. I am curious on your guys, just one last take on Vikings Vent Line you want to get off your chest here. Ryan, I'll start with you. Is there anything else you'd like to see from the Vikings or anything you'd like to tell the Purple Daily audience here before we wrap up?
Man, I really want us to – we were talking about this before we started. It's hard to have a different mindset than the mindset that has been engraved in us since – forever with these sports teams. They're actually starting to get better. So having an open mind and thinking that the coaching staff isn't trying to burn the management and vice versa is just a different thought process. Hopefully we can get some good stuff out of this. I'm excited for the draft. I'm assuming we're going corner, but oh man, if Drake's there, do it up. I don't know. It's exciting. I'm excited.
Totally, dude. Yeah, changing that mindset, like you said, like all these teams are good now. That it was opening day this weekend, and the Wild are going to be really good. The Wolves obviously locked up that 7th seed and will be in the play-in tournament. Things are changing in Minnesota sports, and yes, I think that's our entire mission statement, not just at Purple Daily, but at Score North, is just changing that perception. I think a lot of Minnesota sports fans feel this optimism, or not optimism, this need of, well, I just want to be in the background, and if we can make the playoffs, great, and everything else is different. No. Let's change our mindsets here. Let's have a different outlook on all these teams. Josh, what about you, man? Anything else you'd like to get off your chest before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that this year was kind of a one-off year. I think the Wilks, maybe got a little bit more involved than they had been in the past, and talked to a lot of the players, and then that potentially turned into what it turned into in the off season. But I'm hopeful that they allow Kwesi and KOC to, really put their stamp on this team. I'm hoping they're not going to turn into those ownership groups or owners that want to have their hand in that cookie jar and try and force, the general manager to go a direction or whatever their preconceived notion is. I hope that's not the case. And, I think they probably talked to a lot of the players last year, and the players said that, we feel like we can win and we're a better team than we showed. And I think with the coaching is it's probably going to change that. And my hope is they'll figure that out this year, and it'll either work well or it won't. And then I just want them to give Kwesi the opportunity to build what he wants to build, what he can build. And I think he's a smart enough guy that he can bring in some of these guys that may be on the fringe of being drafted in previous years, and he can do some of that, find the analytics side of that a little bit more, and then get us good players and build a good team long term, right? Instead of just winning. I'd love to see a Super Bowl one, but I also want to see them get to the point where we can win a Super Bowl and then sustain that and continue to be a dominant team.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they can actually hit that ceiling and be a consistently good team, not just popping up every 10 years and going to an NFC title game, but to be in the conversation every year. And I think your grand scheme of letting Kwesi and letting KOC mold this thing, like Wilfs, they've been mostly good owners, but also just be hands-off owners. Like put trust in your company guys that they're running things correctly. And obviously they're funding the money. It's their baby to a degree, but at the same time, let them do their jobs for God's sakes. And I think I think that's the fear too, is you don't want owners having too much of their hand in the cookie jar. And I think Kwesi and KOC hopefully will be able to be given the room to create and build a Super Bowl roster for years in and years out. That's obviously the goal for them. Guys, thank you so much for coming on Vikings Vent Line. Appreciate you guys. Ryan and Josh, new to the show here on Score North. Thank you for coming on. Come on again, by all means, during the season. We'll love to get you guys on. Appreciate you guys supporting Purple Daily. And if you're watching this, please hit the subscribe button on our Purple Daily YouTube channel. This is Vikings Vent Line. If you'd like to get on the show, shoot me an email, vikingsventline@gmail.com. Mackie, Judd are back tomorrow at full strength. This has been Vikings Vent Line on Purple Daily.